Welcome to Talking Straight on Nationalist Hub. My name is Suresh Kochar. The Electricity Amendment Bill 2002 that was introduced in the Lok Sabha on the 8th of August 2022 has been referred to a select committee amidst expected protests from opposition MPs. Even chief ministers of opposition rules and so-called farmer leaders have been opposing it for the sake of opposing it. Before I get into it and call the bluff of these Andolanjeevis, let me give you a flashback on where it all started. The reforms in the electricity in India began in 1992, when the liberalization process was set in motion. As at that point in time, India was facing a huge shortage of power generating stations. A two-part tariff policy was put in place for investors in power generation with sweetened incentives. In 2003, the Vajpayee government decided to step on the accelerator and decided to integrate and revamp the earlier acts and speed up the reforms. This was done by integrating the Electricity Act of 1910, the Electricity Supply Act of 1948, and the Electricity Regulatory Commission Act of 1998. All these three acts, which belong to different eras, were consolidated into one comprehensive one, the Electricity Act of 2003. It was a path-breaking move in a sense that it sought to take out the politics out of the regulation of the power sector. It was a paradigm shift, since power generation, transmission and distribution were under the control of the entities which functioned under the state governments. There were few exceptions in distribution with private sector entities, like in Mumbai, Kolkata, Surat and Ahmedabad, to name a few. Of course, Delhi is now got added on. Rest of them were under the archaic system of state electricity boards, most of which were grossly overstaffed and inefficient. This system of political decision-making made state electricity boards the proverbial white elephants saddled with huge losses. The setting up of regulatory bodies like the Electricity Regulatory Commission, which was autonomous in nature and manned by experts, made them independent of the reach of the government and thus enabled quick business-like decisions. Though the regulators were appointed by the respective state government, they usually tend to be independent once they are in the regulatory chair. One of the major impacts is that the regulatory bodies was able to get the power generation, transmission and distribution entities to think like a corporate outfit on commercial lines. The unbundling was not mandatory, but several states did go ahead with the move. It was trackable when unbundled. That is the most important thing. The Electricity Bill of 2003 introduced competition through open access. Section 42 allowed multiple licenses that demand that distribution lines be opened up directly to supply power to the consumers. The licensee would have to buy the power from the generating company and then transmit it through that power to the same transmission lines. This is done by paying the charge to the owner of the transmission company, which is usually the government. The open access now calls for standby charges in the event of failure to supply power, wheeling charges, banking charges, cross-subsidy charges, banking charges, and most other charges. All these have to be determined by the regulator. The 2003 Act, for example, allowed for the elimination of cross-subsidies, which is a fact of life. But it's not as straightforward one. Each consumer category should pay for what it costs to produce power for that category. The transmission of high tension and extra high tension costs less, while a consumer like farmer who stays far away from the main roads will have to draw power lines over a long distance. And with step-down transformers, the result is that the losses will be much more and it will cost more to supply power to a farmer than to an industrialist. So if you're going to use cost as a criteria, the farmer will end up paying a lot more than the industrialist. It's unrealistic, and definitely it will impact the entire food security chain that we have. The 2003 Act envisaged cross-subsidy elimination, and that was in sharp consumer contrast to the earlier scenario where the high-tension consumer would actually cross-subsidize the residential consumers and the farming community. Power trading, national tariff power policy, and the National Electricity Act would be binding on the regulator as they went about doing the job. The passage of the Electricity Bill 2003, however, saw creeping centralization as the union government was increasingly getting into the states and not so serious about discoms and financial disciplines. The states were not serious about it at all. And that is the problem why the center had to step in. Electricity is a concurrent subject. The states and center both have their own jurisdiction, and that is not necessarily an overlapping one. The distribution of the electricity is essentially a state domain, and that is where the moolah is. The 2003 Act saw the setting up of regulatory bodies to be set up to looking at profitability, unbundling, and as I told you, eliminating cross-subsidy. The 2007 Electricity Amendment Act made some course corrections. It called for the elimination of cross-subsidy in favor of a progressive reduction. Do it slowly. It was a realistic move, as one cannot eliminate cross-subsidy at one go. Now let us look at the key provisions of the 2022 bill that is before the Select Committee of Parliament. Power procurement and tariff is one of the most important things. Upon grant of multiple licenses for the same area, the power and associated cost as per the existing power purchase agreements, or the PPAs as they are called, of the existing DISCOM will be shared between all the DISCOMs. Right now you have only one, but there will be more like your mobile phone connectivity today. To meet any additional power requirements, a DISCOM may enter into additional PPAs after meeting the obligation of the existing arrangements. Such additional power should not be or need not be shared with other DISCOMs. Under the Act, in case of multiple DISCOMs in the same area, the State Electricity Regulatory Commission is required to specify the maximum ceiling for tariff so that there is no extra bills that come on to the consumers. The bill that adds that SERC will also specify a minimum tariff for such cases so that there is no cannibalization as such. The bill adds upon grant of multiple licenses for the same area. So like you have mobile phones today, you can select from anywhere, from a Vodafone to an Airtel to a Jio or anybody. Same goes for electricity if the bill goes through in the Parliament. The state government will set up a cross-subsidy balancing fund. That is very essential. Cross-subsidy refers to an arrangement of one consumer category subsidizing the consumption of another, as I described before. Any surplus with the distribution licensee on account of the cross-subsidy will be deposited into this fund. The fund will be used to finance deficits in cross-subsidy for other DISCOMs in the same area or any other area. The new bill specifies that the above matters related to the operation of multiple DISCOMs in the same area will be regulated in accordance with the rules made by the central government under the Act. The licensee for distribution in multiple states, this is one of the sticking points. As per the bill, the CERC will grant licenses for distribution of electricity in more than one state. And this is where the state governments have a problem, because they say the CERC is overstepping their tariff, their binding nature of recommendations. The bill provides that the electricity will not be scheduled or dispatched, that is the most important thing, if adequate payment security is not provided for the DISCOM. Today, DISCOMs are not able to pay the generating companies. There's huge balance of payments that is out there. Payments cannot be made because they are not able to make the payments. There's huge amounts of outstanding today. The central government may prescribe rules regarding the payment security and how it is done. The bill empowers the central regulators and the state regulators to adjudicate disputes related to the performance of contracts. So naturally there will be disputes. These refer to the contracts related to the sale, purchase or transmission of electricity. Further, the commissions will have powers of a civil court. This Act of 2022, that is 2022, empowers the SERCs to specify renewable purchase obligation. One another big sticking point. The renewable purchase actually refers to the mandate to procure a certain percentage of electricity from renewable sources like solar or wind. Now, the bill adds that the RPO, as it is called, should not be below a certain percentage as specified by the central government. Failure to meet the RPO will result in a punishable penalty that is between 25 paise to 50 paise per kilowatt of the shortfall. So the DISCOMs are forced to buy power from renewable sources, which is another major objection of the new Act. Under the new Act, the chairperson of the Central Electricity Authority or the chairperson of the Central Electricity Regulatory Commission is one of the members of the selection committee to the recommended appointments to the SERCs. And states again have a big objection here. They say, why is the central government getting into this? So that again the select committee will have to sort out. Under the bill, instead of this person, the central government will nominate a member of the selection committee. The nominee should not be below the rank of an additional secretary to the central government. The So the central government today has a majority in nominating the regulators. The state electricity boards at the top echelons were manned by bureaucrats all along. We know that, who came from short duration postings from other departments. They had no idea how much power to buy, what price to buy, and basically were dictated by the government of the day. This led to a huge amount of corruption and inefficiency in the business model. It's a well-known fact that almost all the state discoms are in a huge financial mess. Free power and theft are two of the most important issues. Of course, the PPAs are also to blame. Long PPAs are signed for a long while. It should not be done. No more 30-year PPAs. Short PPAs should be there. Also, we have been seeing that almost 4 lakh crores worth of freebies that were given out were not compensated for. Actually, the bailout is happening today. 4 bailouts have already been given to discoms in the past, and the 5th bailout will be to the tune of 4 lakh crores. This cannot go on and on and on. The Electricity Amendment Bill 2000 has its own pluses and minuses, and now is with the Select Committee of Parliament. Let them take a call. Let us stop the politics of it and look at how to make the discoms more healthy and how to make the GenCos also more healthy. Thank you for watching. Jai Hind.
Please subscribe to Nationalist Hub English channel for more interesting videos, and don't forget to like and share this video. Nationalist Hub, it's a news revolution.